Welcome everybody to It's a Small's World. Today we're joined by special guest Tim Bray, Amazon's former AWS VP. Also my lovely co-host Blakely. So Tim Bray is a Canadian software developer, environmentalist, political activist, and one of the co-authors of Original XML Specification. He worked for Amazon Web Services starting in December of 2014 until May 1st of last year. He resigned in solidarity with us. So I'm glad to be having a conversation with him a year later. So going back to you started up a nice what I like to say good trouble last year. On May 1st, you resigned in solidarity with us Amazon activists and workers, former workers. And that was a very powerful move on your end. So I want to say thank you again. I know I said it last year when I spoke to you briefly, but thank you again. Even a year later, it still definitely makes me feel good that somebody like you, somebody of your stature, did that in solidarity. So thank you again for that.
Well, you're welcome. But I didn't start it; they started it.
That's true. That is true. So, but still, solidarity is solidarity. You took a huge step. So getting right into it, how long did you work for the company and what exactly did you do in your position?
So, Chris, I think you and I were pretty well parallel because I started in late 2014 and I bailed in May of 2020. So 5.5 years. And that was a big overlap with you, right?
Yeah. About the same. I started in November 2015 and last year, 2020.
Anyhow, so I was, for a while, I was something called a senior principal engineer, and then I got promoted and I was a thing called a distinguished engineer, which is a VP rank. And this is a thing that all the big tech companies have, which are engineers who rank like VPs, but they don't have anybody reporting to them. So they're individual contributors, and it's kind of a high priest job, right? The high priest is the intercessionary between God and humanity. And so I'm the intercessionary between the technology and the executives. And so that means, being a technology expert and helping people figure out what to do and reviewing code and designs and helping get smart people promoted and helping actually write code and, get some of the hard parts done. It's a general purpose job. A lot of talking to customers. It's a great job. I mean, it's a really wonderful job, particularly if you're really down with computer technology and you don't really like managing people. It's the best job in the world. And AWS is a cool place to work.
Right. So how long was you there?
5.5 years, December 2014 to May of 2020.
Was you in the same position or you started in the whatever position you got hired with, you stayed in that same position is what I meant?
Well, I got promoted, but it was just, from rank 8 to rank 10. So it wasn't, that big a deal.
Right. Okay. Got you. Thank you. So here's one thing that stood out to me. I know you mentioned it a few times, or at least journalists have mentioned it in their articles, your salary. And I know I don't want to get into your numbers or anything, but is it true that you walked away, and it's your discretion, but you walked away from $1 million salary? And
well, here's the thing is people in high ranks in the big tech companies get paid super well, right? And, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then half of your salary or more comes in Amazon shares. So if Amazon shares go up, which they've been doing for, ever since 2014, like crazy, you can really make bank. I mean, you can take some really serious money home. And if I'd stayed on, I did walk away from well over $1 million. And that's okay. I'm 65 years old. I've been in technology for a long time. I'm financially well enough set. So it's not a life-wrecking move. To be honest, I hated walking away from the work more because it was a great place to work and cool people and interesting customers and so on. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's just that's once again, I just commend you for that. That's a huge step to do that. And I just wanted to verify that is true. So, when you talk about shareholders, that's one thing that sticks out to me as well, because we lost that in 2018 when they did minimum wage. And I think you know that as well. As warehouse workers, for me, that was another tax return, a couple $3,000 or $4,000 a year I can cash in on. And I felt like, Amazon pretty much they did us the wrong way by doing that. I mean, I feel like this company definitely made enough money, it obviously does, where it can continued our stocks annually for entry-level workers. And also the VCP. We lost out on our monthly bonuses for what reason? And I don't know. For getting a bonus from coming to work every day, and the productivity for your site. That was VCP. That was extra money, a couple of $100 a month, especially during the holiday season, during peak season. There was a percentage added on to that for working that holiday peak season. So for them to take that away, that was disheartening, especially for us vets that have been there, 2-3 years in by that time. So that's a lot of that don't get mentioned a lot. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it all comes down to power, the power relationship between Amazon and its warehouse people is like really asymmetrical, really unbalanced. Back where I worked over in AWS, it was really different because everybody who was working there was like a high-paid engineer, and if they got irritated, they'd walk out the door across the street and get a job at Microsoft or Google or something like that. So they had power, right? And so Amazon treated them with respect, and lots of stock options, nice offices, excursions, good fun, and so on. And in the FCs, sorry, that's Amazon talk for warehouse. In the FCs, fulfillment center it stands for, but they're not really that fulfilling, when you get right down to it. Anyhow, the people there are, don't have much bargaining power for a bunch of reasons. One is that Amazon's really good at hiring more, right? So they can replace you if they don't like you. And in the States, it's particularly bad in the USA for two reasons. First of all, because in the States, your healthcare depends on your employer. Now, in Canada, that's not true, right? In fact, nowhere else in the civilized world is that true. So it really hurts to lose your job there, particularly if you got any health problems at all. And the second is that America has this huge anti-union culture, and it's not a new thing. It's been going on since the 1970s. The Reagan-Thatcher consensus, they called it. And as a deliberate matter of policy, they stripped back working class power and union organizing capabilities and so on. And now we've got a situation today where the amount of inequality in wealth and power is just absurd. It's stupid. It's we got Lamborghinis and Bentleys driving around and homeless encampments in the parks. That's just not a sane way to run a society. And you've got the ownership of money so highly concentrated in a very small number of people, the money just sits there in investment banks, doesn't even get used. If that money were spread across people like, us guys who actually spend it, don't just sit on it, it would be like a better economy, better everything. So, it's a matter of power. And the only way we're going to fix it is by getting some power back in the hands of the workers.
I'm glad you brought that up. Brings me into pretty much what I was going to say, my next question. You kind of touched on it already. Other countries don't seem to have this problem. France, Italy, Germany, these workers strike. Even in Canada, in your own country, a building just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe about a month ago, they closed down due to a COVID-19 outbreak. Same thing we was raising concerns on here in New York last year, what I was fired for. Just trying to get the building closed for a minimum 2 weeks, 14-day incubation period of the virus, and reopened, and we'll come back to work. That's all I wanted. For everybody that don't know, that's all I really wanted initially. And instead, they chose to quarantine me, to silence me, and then after I protested, they fired me. Then several others afterwards. Two of them, especially Emily Cunningham, Aaron Costa, on the Seattle side. And, it's unfortunate that we're trying to just raise some type of awareness just so y'all can correct y'all mistake. But instead, we get retaliated on against, and we get terminated and ousted and almost smeared. Apparently, they wanted to smear me. And I wish I could get into a lot more about that as well. But, what are your thoughts about why the U.S. struggles so hard to protect its workers and allow unions to form within these companies?
Well, we can just to bring that home. I'm sure you know the story about what happened in France, but let's tell anybody else who's listening. So in France, they have way more progressive labor laws, right? And if you've got a union, you got to talk to the union. And so when COVID came along, they had the exact same thing you guys had there out in New York area. The union said, look, we don't feel safe. There's not enough social distancing, not enough PPEs, no transparency about who's sick. So they went to try to talk to Amazon. Amazon said, bugger off, we don't talk to unions. So they took them to court in France.
Right.
And they won. And then they got an injunction saying, you're only allowed to ship essential stuff. And Amazon said, well, we're going to close the warehouses then. You're going to take my ball and go home. And then they appealed in court, and they lost the appeal. The union won on appeal again. And then, so what did they do? They went and talked to the union and cut a deal. And I assume they, amped up the safety measures and so on. And once the union was happy, they reopened the warehouses and everybody went back to work and everything was fine. So it's not as though there's something where Amazon's a magical snowflake that can't work with unions. They can, because we've seen them do it.
These countries, yes, they can.
It's just a matter of creating a legal and regulatory framework where they can't just blow unions off the way they have been, and it's particularly an American problem.
What we witnessing now, right here in Alabama. You've seen the reports that came out today about the mailbox. I've seen the mailbox. I seen it for myself. It was there a month ago. The mailbox is there. They have it covered up by a tent, but it's there. So, yeah, you're right. They need to be held accountable on everything. It seems like they get away and get a slap on the wrist here in the States. So I'm glad you brought that into full perspective.
Well, they spent millions and millions and millions down there in Bessemer, with all these consultants and anti-union lawyers and anti-union PR people and Pinkerton investigators and all this crap. It's just completely unreasonable.
I don't understand it. Let the people unionize if they want to unionize. Well, we're going to continue to do that anyway. I know workers that are still motivated, even as we're tuning in now and the results are looking like it's not in our favor, but it doesn't stop anything. I think Bessemer, what it did was still spark that fuse for other warehouses to collectively start, working together and forming some type of union or reaching out to one at least. So,
I really hope so. I think that, it would have been a miracle if they'd got it through on the first attempt, but, you got to keep doing this and eventually you're going to win one and win a few and people will notice that, hey, this works.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. So, last question from me. What's next for you? What's next for Tim Bray?
Oh, well, I'm an old guy, right? So I've been doing big tech for 40 years. And so I'm sort of semi-retired. I'm advising a couple of companies and trying to write a book, but I don't take any meetings before 10 o'clock now. And I enjoy that part of it. And I'm trying to work with some nonprofits with Wikipedia and the Internet Archive, people who are some of the few people who are in the internet infrastructure who aren't there to make a buck. They're just there trying to make the internet a better place. So I'm trying to help out those. And I'm doing, a lot of, talking to journalists and activists and people like you too. Now, I'm not exactly an expert activist, but I do what I can.
I'm going to ask you, Tim, did you ever expect to be in this media like this? I couldn't imagine it a year ago. So what about you? Do you feel the same?
Absolutely. I had 40 years training on how to be an engineer. Then I woke up one morning and I found myself like an activist. Well, I better learn how to do this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember my first interview like it was yesterday. And I was like, it's a huge difference from when I was a year ago. So I got used to it. I got the hang of it now, so to speak. So I'm glad to see you riding this ride with me and taking this journey with me. So it's great to see that. Cool. Great to hear your book that's coming out. I also heard there's some filmmakers that's starting to film you too. So I know you're going to be in some documentaries coming out.
I imagine you'll be in those too.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that'll only make the story even better. Lastly, from you to the workers of Amazon, what do you hope for the future when it comes to the working class people?
Two things. First of all, I hope the world just becomes saner, because you cannot look at the current setup and say that's sane. And here's the really radical thing is what Amazon is trying to do is to become maximally efficient. Okay. And so let me tell you a story. 2 years ago now, my little daughter was studying Chinese in school. So we went off to China for a family trip. And I was walking around Beijing and I saw these two old guys who were street sweepers. And they stopped at the corner to shoot the shit, have a smoke, tell each other some jokes. And they laughed and then they stopped and went back to work after a while. And I was thinking, that could never happen at Amazon, right? because at Amazon, they have become so maniacally focused on efficiency that they've subtracted all the humanity. And there's nothing wrong with trying to be efficient, but you can't push it endlessly. I mean,
Right.
look at what Amazon offers. Amazon offers, low prices, wide selection, fast delivery. Who couldn't like that, right? That's a good thing. But there's no free lunch. Somebody's got to pay for it. And who's paying for it right now? Well, of course, I don't have to tell you who's paying for it.
Oh, yeah.
It's the people in those warehouses that are paying for it. So yeah, let's be efficient. Let's be smart about the way we run things, but let's be human. Let's not push it to the point of insanity, and that's where it is now. And we need to do politics to get a more sane government in place so that they are more on the side of the workers. But you can't wait for the power to be given. Sometimes you got to take it, and you get together, you get people all pointing in the same direction, and they're not going to lose. So more power to them, and they should. If I were them, I'd be doing whatever I could to get out there and just take the power that needs to be taken.
Wow, amazing! I couldn't agree with you anymore. That motivated me, so I'm one of them, and I'm going to definitely try to continue and fight this good fight. It's going to be a long uphill battle, but I'm still up for it, and you'll be in touch. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story, sharing your thoughts and insight. Very powerful. We would love to have you back on in the future.
Sure.
Chop it up again. And you stay safe up there in Canada, man. I got to come up there one time. I've never been, so I'm looking forward to it.
You come to Vancouver, I'll give you a boat ride, man.
I would love to. I like to fish too, so maybe we could do some of that too.
Cool.
All right.
Okay. Good to talk, man.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Solidarity.